welcome back to Midland Public Library's Easy Embroidery program. As always, my name's Jennifer WHIPP, and I'm the Maker Place Coordinator here at MPL. This week, we're going to be tackling stems and leaves, and I couldn't be more excited. Let's get started. Just like last week, you're going to need your loaded hoop with fabric, your needle and floss, and of course, your marking pen. Go ahead and get everything ready, and then we'll jump right in. Today, we'll be starting off with the fly stitch. Okay, the fly stitch. So this here is what the fly stitch is going to end up looking like. So the first thing you need to do for your fly stitch is just do a straight line, just like we've been doing for pretty much all of our stitches so far. Okay. So you're gonna start at the top of your line, and you will put your needle through, coming up from the back, and pull it tight. Okay, then you're gonna do a fairly long stitch, and you're gonna come back down on the line. So again, pull your floss tight. Okay, and then about halfway, at about the halfway mark, you're gonna come back up through from the back, and pull tight. Then on the other side, you'll go back down. You'll leave a loop. Okay, so you'll leave a loop like this. And you'll come back up through the hole right here. Go through the loop and pull it tight. So that is a fly stitch. So then you'll go back down, again, another long stitch length, pull all the way, about halfway up, halfway on the other side, remembering to leave your loop. You'll come back up through that same hole you came down, go through the loop, and pull her tight. A long stitch length, halfway up, same distance on the other side, leave your loop, come back up, through your loop, pull it tight. Then you'll just finish by going back down. And that's the fly stitch. Okay, you can also use that fly stitch to fill in leaves. So let's take a look at that. I'm gonna start by drawing 2 leaves because there's 2 different ways that you can use the fly stitch to fill the leaf in. So I have one end that's very pointed and one end that's a little more rounded. Doesn't have to be perfect. And then we'll do one more. Okay, 2 leaves. And I'm gonna do a line down the center just to help myself out a bit. Okay. So, in the first variation here, we're gonna basically do exactly what we did on the other lines here. So I'm gonna come up starting at the point, and I'm gonna do a fairly long stitch, come back down on the line in the center of the leaf, and I'll pull tight. Okay. Then in that halfway point, I'll come back up, go across to that halfway point on the other side and go down. And make sure that I leave my loop. Come back up through the loop and pull it tight. Then I'll do another stitch. Pull all the way through. Come back up on that half point. Go across to the other side and back down. Leave my loop. Come back up. Go through my loop. Pull it tight. Okay, and there you have it. The first variation of the fly stitch to make a leaf. For the second variation, we're just gonna do pretty much what we did in the first, but we're gonna make the stitches a lot tighter. So it'll be the same as this, but we'll come in a lot with our outside little sticks here. They'll come in a lot closer to the center line. Let me show you. So come up on our point. Come back down on the center line. For this, you don't have to make the stitch quite as long. And then instead of coming up in the halfway point here, we're gonna come up very close to this center line. Same with the other side. As always, we leave our loop. And we come back up. Okay, here's where it gets different. Instead of doing a long stitch, we're gonna come back down pretty much right in the same spot on the other side of our loop, just to kind of close our loop off and finish it, just like with the chain stitch, or the detached lazy daisy stitch. So, I'm gonna come back up pretty close. Do that on the other side as well. Sure to leave our loop and come back up. Go through the loop, pull it tight. And then once again, go back down without leaving a long stitch there. And we're just gonna keep doing that until we fill in the leaf. All right, so that's what it looks like when we're all said and done. So obviously you can make your stitches as close together, as far apart as you like, depending on the aesthetic you're going for, but ultimately that's the fly stitch. Okay, time to learn the feather stitch. Okay, feather stitch. We're gonna do our best with this one. I've never done it before, but I think I can do it. So, We're gonna start by drawing 4 parallel lines. So 1, 2, 3, do one over here, 4. And I mean, those might be a little bit spaced out. You can do them closer together or farther apart, depending on how you want to go for it, but this is what I'm working with. So this is kind of a variation on the fly stitch. It's a little bit different though. So you're gonna start by coming up, okay, and then you're gonna skip over a line and come back down. Okay. You'll keep your loop at the bottom like we've been doing for a lot of these. And you'll find this line here, the line in between your 2 holes. You go down about a stitch length, right? And then you'll come up on that line, going through your loop and pulling towards yourself to pull it tight. All right. Now we're gonna do this exact same thing, but our 2 points are gonna be here and here. So we'll go across and go down. Keep our loop. Go a stitch length down. Come up and pull it towards ourselves, closing off that loop. Okay, and then we're gonna do the 2 points, the 2 tops will be here and here. So we'll come back down on this side. Keep the loop. Go a stitch length down and come back up. Pull towards yourself and pull it tight. Okay, so now we're doing here and here. Go back down, keep that loop, stitch length down, come up, pull towards ourselves, and tighten it off. And I'll just finish it off by going back down on the other side of this loop. So I'll go on the outside of the loop and go back down. Okay, so there you have the feather stitch. You can see why this would be good for something like branches, especially if you did it a little bit tighter. Maybe I'll do a tight one and just show you the end result really quick. But that is the basic feather stitch. All right, so I did a second feather stitch. So you can compare it to my first one. You can see that my first one, the stitch length is a lot longer and it's not quite as tight. So you definitely have options with this stitch. Up next is the stem stitch. All right, stem stitch. First thing we're gonna do is draw a line. I'm just gonna draw one down here. Okay. We're gonna take our needle, and as we always do, we'll start at the beginning of the line and come up from the back. Okay. So for this very first stitch, you're gonna go a little bit longer than you normally would. Okay, and you're gonna come back down. You will leave the loop on the bottom. So you're just gonna keep some form of loop down here. It doesn't have to be perfect because you are gonna pull it through. Okay, then you'll come up in the very center of your 2 stitches. So where you came up and where you came down. Come up on the center on the line. And you don't go through your loop. You'll pull out the other way and pull it tight. Okay. Then you're gonna go 1 stitch length forward from where you've gone up here or down here. And you'll go down. Once again, you'll keep your loop at the bottom there, and you'll come up through the hole here. And you'll pull away, closing off that loop. Okay, then 1 stitch length forward again, and down, keeping your loop. Come back up through that hole that you've already made. Pull away, close off that loop. 1 stitch length forward and down, keep your loop, and come back up through. Pull away, close off that loop. 1 stitch length forward and down, keep your loop, come up through that hole, pull away, and close off that loop. So you can see it gives you almost a braided effect or a twisted effect. That's quite pretty when you're doing stems. So that's the stem stitch. All right, let's learn the detached chain stitch, also called the lazy daisy stitch. Okay, so chain stitched leaves, also known as a detached chain stitch, or a lazy daisy stitch or a daisy stitch. So what you're going to do, I'm just going to try and show you. You don't even need to draw anything for this one. You're going to come up from the back. You're going to create a loop and come back down through the same hole that you came up. You'll pull the loop and then come up through the center. You'll pull it tight, but not too tight, because you want it to still look like a little leaf or a flower petal. And then instead of going back down through the same hole that we came up with, like we do with the chain stitch, because this is a detached chain stitch, we have to close it off. So what we're going to do is come down on the other side and just stitch that petal down. So you can use that as a leaf, you can use that as a flower petal. Let's do another one. So I come up, I create a loop by holding it with my thumb, I go back down through the same hole I came up, pull my loop, come up at the tip of my loop there, pull it tight but not too tight, go on the outside of the loop and come back down. You can see that when you do them in a circle like this, it's going to end up looking like a flower. But if you just had a, let's say you had a back stitch going up that line, you could do them as a pet or as a leaf. So you can see how this would start to look like a flower with a stem and a leaf on the side. So that is the detached chain stitch or the lazy daisy stitch. This next stitch is one of my favorites. It's called the fishbone stitch and it's great for leaves and petals. Up next, we are going to do my absolute favorite stitch. So we're gonna do fishbone leaves. So I'm going to just use this, this pretend line that I had as my stem, and let's say I wanted to do a nice beautiful leaf off the side. So I'm gonna just draw my leaf. Okay, and so this is gonna be very similar to the fly stitch leaf that we did, but it's different, and I would say easier. So you're gonna start on the tip of your leaf, and you'll come up. And to make this even easier on myself, I'm actually going to draw a line, a straight line down the center of my leaf so I can follow that as well. Okay, so I've come up from the back. I go 1 stitch length down and come back down on that center line. And I'm gonna pull my needle through. Then I'm gonna bring my needle up very, very close to that first stitch at the very top. So I'm gonna come up just to the left of that first line there. And then I'm gonna come back down right below where my last stitch ended. Okay, and then I'll come up on the right side. Again, very close to that top point of my leaf. And then I'll come down right below, once again on that line. Okay, then I come up the other side. And I come back down on the line. Up the other side. And back down on the line. And I'm just gonna keep doing that until I fill in the whole leaf. Okay, and so there we ended up with a pretty cute little leaf. So obviously that one's quite big considering the size of my stem, but I think you get the idea. And just to show you what it can be used for, so this is the first piece of embroidery that I ever did. So this was like me learning. And so you can see here that I used that stitch to do this kind of flower. I used it to do a feather, and you can see it here in color. I used it to do that flower there. So it's a really fun and versatile stitch, and I really love the way it turns out. It's easy and I find it relaxing to do, so I hope you enjoy the fishbone stitch as well. Okay, do you want to learn more? Are you hooked on embroidery yet? If you are, I've put some additional links in the description of this video. Go ahead, click on them, and follow them to some awesome tutorials on stems and leaves. Next week, we're going to be learning to embroider flowers, my personal favorite. The weekly video will be released on Monday, November 23rd at 4 p.m. So go ahead and tune in and learn along with me. Thank you for joining me for week 3 of Midland Public Library's Easy Embroidery, the program where we make this beautiful art form so simple. I'll see you next week, everyone. Bye for now.